Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum. I'm very excited to be here on staff match night of Moons Out 2025. This is our annual night vision rifle match. No white light, only active and passive infrared night vision goggles. It's a ton of fun. And what I was planning to shoot for this run, I'm going to do this match twice, but what I was planning to do for the staff match was to run my CETME-LV because I mean, it's a cool rifle, but more importantly, I have the original Spanish scope, night vision scope. This is a Spanish version of basically a PVS-4. It's a Gen 2 early night vision scope, 3.5 power magnification. And this is the correct issued scope for this rifle. And I was really excited to try out a piece of old, crappy vintage gear and see how it would work. Unfortunately, it appears to have taken some damage in transit because something's loose in here now. We tested it out yesterday, was working great. We got to the very first stage here today, and the focus is completely gone. It's just a giant blur that occasionally pops back into focus and then goes away. And so, alas, there's absolutely no way for me to even try until I can get the scope fixed, which is not going to happen in the next 24 hours here at the match. So I sadly have to put this aside, and instead I have borrowed from a generous fellow competitor a piece of actual good kit. This is an AR that he put together specifically to be a night fighting rifle. It's Aero Precision upper and lower Geissele rail because it's good and rigid. He's got a PEQ-15 on here with a switch on it, combined with an E-Attack. Now the E-Attack's a good optic for night fighting, for passive use at night, but frankly, this one's mounted a little bit low for me to try and squish my face down behind with nods on. And so I will be shooting in active division using this with the laser and illuminator with the PEQ-15. Ambidextrous charging handle here does not have an ambidextrous safety, so I'll have to remember to use the safety on the left side of the gun. And the recoil system on this is kind of a weird combination of parts. It's actually got a hydraulic buffer intended for pistols combined with a 308 tub flat spring, and I don't even remember the other bits and pieces in there. But this is my chance to have a good piece of actual modern kit instead of the CETME. But it's literally a pick up the rifle and off you go. So, oh, and a suppressor. It's got a silencer code. It's a 46 cal suppressor, so it's almost a muzzle brake. It does do some suppression, but not super quiet because it's way overbore for 5.56. Anyway, we have 10 stages for the match. I'm very excited about them. We got some really cool stages for you this year. So, sorry for the CETME. Let's hit the range with the AR and see how I can do with proper modern gear. Stage 1, Rambo's reading Rainbow. Okay, you all failed basic first grade reading. Now you have to do it again, but with nods and guns. And this stage is sponsored by TNVC, Tactical Night Vision Company. I am actually using night vision goggles that I purchased from TNVC. All right, the point of this stage was to force you to manipulate the focus on your nods. So you open up the box and your instructions for the first half of the stage are written on a piece of paper taped to the top of the box. I've reprinted it here for you. You start with the cannon. If you can get the tennis ball from the cannon through the upright supports of the far right target, you get a nice bonus. I actually came surprisingly close, but didn't actually make it. Very few people actually made it. So anyway, then after you remember to actually load the rifle, the remainder of this first engagement is to hit all 8 plates. We have four spinners out there, and you don't have to spin them. We're just using them as static targets. So you have to get a hit on the top and the bottom plate of each of those spinners. I promise you they are actually out there. The camera focus here is on me instead of the target, so they're a little blurry. They were a bit hard to see, and the illuminator on this PEQ-15 is not particularly bright. To be fair to it, I'm not sure if it's just because I wasn't particularly familiar with how to work with its settings, because this was a rifle that I literally started using. I literally picked up about 10 minutes before I shot this stage. Anyway, quick digression here. You then go to the second box, which has a separate set of instructions that you have to follow. This starts with a bunch of shooting and then goes to the cannon a second time. And it's a significantly more complex series of engagements that you have to make on first this spinner, then that target, then this other target, then something else. I know some of you guys are going to look at this and go, well, look at that. You couldn't even remember it. You had to come back. It's not very well organized. It should have been in bullet points or something. Well, no, actually, the whole point of this stage was to make it challenging and difficult to work with, to force people to do exactly what I did and go back to figure out exactly what they were supposed to be doing. Anyway, the illuminator on this PEQ-15 is not nearly as bright as the Maul, and it was definitely harder to see the targets than it was the other night when I ran them all. So you'll also maybe notice that we have a round laser here. That's kind of a cool feature. It is a blocker cap that gives you a specific shape, and it's intended to allow people to identify their own laser when they're in groups. So kind of cool. The owner of that rifle had put that on there. Anyway, the end of the stage is a second shot with the cannon, which I totally miss. It basically goes through the spinner, but the spinner's not the target that you need to engage. So overall, I still did really well on this one. Stage 2, SEAL Team Extraction. Your SEAL team has just raided a drug lab and the security force has counterattacked. You have stolen a Humvee and are making your escape, running a gauntlet of narco bad guys doing their best to stop you. This was definitely one of the more entertaining action-y stages of the match. You're shooting out the back of the Humvee. So the Humvee pulls up here. The previous shooter gets out. The new shooter gets in. You drive down to the bottom of this valley, turn the vehicle around, get prepped, and then once the vehicle starts moving, we have a total of 3 targets to engage from the back of the Humvee. And every hit that you get on a target is a 5-second bonus. So I am stacking up the hits here. This is one where I actually did better on this stage with the semi-auto rifle than I did with my full-auto Lage Max 11 the next night. Not by a lot. I got one bonus more on this one. But the recoil control was frankly a little bit better, and the trigger was way better on this, and I was able to just hammer these targets even from longer distance. Like at that range, I was still making a couple of hits, where with the Lage in full auto, there's no way I was going to hit it from that distance. So we're going to come up here to the last target on the left, which I am also going to just unload on. Really cool to see those cases popping out in thermal there. Overall, got a total of 175 seconds of bonus. That's 35 hits, which is pretty awesome there. Stage 3, the Mogadishu Marathon. You have loaded all the wounded onto the UN convoy, but there is no room for you. You have to run alongside the convoy and provide fire support. Sponsored by Polaris Worldwide Logistics. If you need to get guns to Somalia or anywhere else, Polaris is your solution. We have a call out to Blackhawk down here. You have to run the length of about a 200-yard bay. There are 3 little side bays along the way. Each one of them has 2 poppers that you have to knock down. This was a piece of cake for me. It was really easy to hit those poppers with the laser. They were visible. They weren't that far away, so the limitations of the PEQ-15 didn't really cause me any issues. I was able to go nice and fast. You can't even see the truck behind me because I just took off running. That popper was a little sticky. I had to hit it a couple times. In fact, I don't believe it actually went down, but because I made 3 hits on it, they called it as neutralized anyway. With those side bays taken care of, you then run up to the VTAC barricade, and you have to get engaged. You have to get hits on 2 plates, left, right, and then left, right a second time. This one really caused me some issues. I had a hard time finding the right side plate, and again, that really comes down to the illuminator on the laser aiming module. It really is much more important to have a good laser and illuminator for shooting at night than it is to have a particularly swanky or fancy or expensive gun. As long as the gun works, you don't really have to worry about it. It is the laser and illuminator that make all the difference for being able to find the targets and then hit the targets. Now, I tried to make this point last year by running a high point carbine and a Maul, and it turns out the high point carbine is a little too low end and definitely did hinder me last year. Here with all modern kit, like with a nice AR that has a decent, reasonable laser on it, I did quite well. I could have done a little better here if I had a bigger illuminator, been better able to see that first target. But stage 4, home invasion. The black helicopters are real and they are coming for you. Unfortunately, your no-load buddy that's been sleeping on your couch for the last 3 months has set off your Claymore Roomba and has been severely wounded. Brought to you by Refuge Medical and Magpul. Thanks to Magpul for the mags, and thanks to Refuge Medical for providing the medical briefing and assistance. Here's another one that forces you to do some focus and work up close. We have a drag dummy that has been injured, and you have to pack the wound. So you have to get packing gauze out of the dummy's web gear, and then we have a wound simulator right there, complete with fake blood pumping out of it. By the time I finish this stage, my hands are going to be totally covered in fake blood. You can see the RO there from Refuge Medical, helping to keep everything running. So wound packing is a specific skill that if you don't know, you might consider learning. Taking a TCCC emergency trauma first aid class is definitely not a bad idea. So here, you do all the wound packing. Once you've got the wound completely filled up with gauze, you're then going to put direct pressure on the wound like this, hold it for 30 seconds, then you can complete the stage. Now, the stage is not done with your own gun, it's done with the drag dummy's gun, which unfortunately is an M4 with plastic iron sights, and there's no way you can use those things with your nods. So instead, you have to figure out how to point shoot it without using sights and clear the shoot house here. Now, unfortunately, this evening I forgot to use my first-person recorder on the nods, so I don't have a first-person view of the rest of this stage. It is not a safe stage for a cameraman to follow us through. But instead, we do have a thermal camera on a drone filming this whole stage and several others. So we get the cool overhead aerial view of me clearing the shoot house. I took a wrong turn there, then come back around. The RO is right tight on you here, guiding you through the shoot house. And the ammunition that you are provided, I should be very clear, for this stage is frangibles. So yeah, we're shooting steel at very, very close distances, but we're doing it with frangible ammo, and it is in fact safe. You want to wear eye pro, but otherwise totally fine to do this at close range. So that was our fun shoot house. Definitely a stage that we will continue to include in Moons Out matches. Stage 5, the siege of Camp A-107. Intel has found out that the VC have been building ladders and making coffins. An attack is assumed to be imminent, and your Special Forces A-team has been charged with defending Camp A-107. This stage is sponsored by Flux Defense, makers of the Flux Raider, the coolest thing you can do with a SIG-320.
That's what it's all about, Mr. Beckworth!
Les Winner, our stage designer and match director, is a big fan of John Wayne's Green Berets, so we have a mortar simulator on this round and a call out to the Green Berets. Unfortunately, the simulator didn't work for me. We had a bunch of problems with it on the staff match night, which fortunately we were able to get resolved, and it worked far better on the main match when all of our actual competitors got to use it. So the point of this stage is you start by dropping the simulated mortar round, then you have 3 targets that you have to engage twice in sweeps, so no double taps, go 1, 2, 3, and then repeat them again. And then we have gigantic mortar ammo cans full of rocks that you have to move up and down the trench. Now, in order to make this a self-resetting stage, we alternated back and forth. You would either take the ammo cans from the mortar back down to the end of the trench, like I'm doing here, or, like say the next shooter after me, would take the cans from the end of the trench and bring them to the mortar. So it's the same work that you're doing, traveling the same distance with the same weight, but that allows us to not have to have our ROs running up and down the trench with cans all night long. These targets are steel silhouettes of varying size out in open terrain. It's really fun to shoot open terrain stages during the day, and even more fun to shoot them at night. So we got a second ammo can here that I have to take back up the trench, and then I'll come back and engage the targets a third and final time. So fun stage, it's a really cool trench. The guys at Echo Valley are expanding the trench every year, so it gets better and better to use. And frankly, I'm excited to see what we do with it next year too. But the mortar simulator went flawlessly for almost all of our competitors, fortunately, and made for a really cool prop on a pretty fun stage. So there is my very last hit. Did not fantastic, like not top 5%, but pretty well here. Our first stage of the day is Stage 6, Bound Forward. You are part of a fire team rush on the enemy's outpost. This stage has been brought to you by Aimpoint, optics for professionals. We have another open terrain stage here. There are 6 shooting boxes running down this path and 1 target at the end. And all you have to do is hit the target 3 times from each box, which sounds super simple. However, there is a flasher on the target, and when you hit it, it flashes and then holds a steady light. Now in the daytime, this is a really nice, simple, low impact indicator for ROs or shooters to be able to tell if they hit the target. At night, however, that relatively dim visible light turns into a giant flashing beacon or strobe, and it can actually be really hard to hit that target when the light's on, because the target completely washes out the target itself. So some shooters, the really good shooters, were able to keep track of where the target was and where their laser was and make hits while the light was on. A lot of us had to, at least part of the time, wait until the light turned off. Now, as you continue down the stage, you get closer and closer to the target, so things get easier and easier. I was fortunate here that the staff match night was a little bit brighter. It was a very clear night, and so my lighting on this stage was better than it was on the subsequent nights when the main match came through. That's one of the things about night competitions like this is clouds will make a big difference in your visibility and your shooting experience in a way that they just don't do during the daytime. So there is no, we don't have a way to accommodate being fair about that. Like, we considered fair and decided against it, and it's just luck of the draw. Everyone's going to have the same conditions on some stages. They won't be the same stages, but you'll get the conditions somewhere. So this was a fun one. Open terrain stages are always a good time. Stage number 7, the Double Wide of Death. You are part of a SEAL team sent out to rescue and evacuate a CIA team held in a drug cartel base. The stage brought to you by B&T and specifically by their new Inconel titanium hybrid printed suppressors. Super cool stuff. This was our shoot house stage. You start with a simulated flashbang. Boom, there it goes. And then run through and engage paper targets, not engaging the no-shoots. Again, I didn't have my first-person recorder here, so I apologize. But we have only very poor footage of this stage to show. So I considered just leaving this out entirely, but you do get a little bit of a view of what the inside of the shoot house was like. Definitely check out my main match run with the Lage, where I have first-person view of this. It was a lot of fun. It was a short, fast, intense stage, and we'll, again, definitely do it next year. Stage 8, Bakhmut Night Assault. You are assaulting to take a position in the ruins of the city of Bakhmut. Brought to you by Varusteleka, the finest in military and outdoors gear, as well as daily wear clothing. Pretty much everything I wear is from Varusteleka. By far the most physical stage of the whole match was this one, Bakhmut Night Assault, and this is a classic kettlebell Kasarda drill. So in this case, the tweak on it is you have to hit the target from a kneeling position with 2 hits each time you have to shoot. I had a lot of trouble here trying to find the target. Now, I'm using just the laser, which a big old illuminator would have definitely been helpful. Part of the problem here was that the PEQ-15 is not super convenient or super intuitive to use. And having just picked up the rifle this evening, I wasn't sure what sort of switches to flip. And so I just left it on laser mode. As I get a little bit closer, once I figure out where the target is, I'm able to identify some reference points on the backstop. kettlebell almost goes over there, but not quite. Anyway, I'm able to identify some reference points for the target, and my hits improve through the rest of the night. But this is a very grueling stage. So the concept is you make your 2 hits, and then you throw the kettlebell. That is a 50 or 52 pound kettlebell. You throw it downrange, and then advance to where it lands and make a couple of hits. Again, each position, it's 2 hits from kneeling. You have to work your way around the debris that is deliberately scattered on the range here. You can see here I have to move to the side a little bit to clear that barrel so it doesn't interfere with my line of sight. And it basically, if you're good at it, is 2 kettlebell throws for each of these crosswise barricades. And each time you cross a barricade, you do get a 10-second bonus. So if you don't finish the stage, you'll get par time, which is 4 minutes for this and all of our other stages this year. But you do get a couple bonuses to separate people depending on how much progress they got through the stage. Run out of ammo, do a mag change. Everything's slower at night. Mag changes are slower, operating the gun is slower, movement is slower. Like, you know, something like a mag change, you essentially have to do it blind because it is definitely not worth your time to refocus your night vision up close so that you can watch yourself doing the mag change. Instead, you need to be able to do it without looking at the gun at all, as well as dumping mags, you know, having a good retention. I alternated between using a closable general purpose pouch on my left for things like dropping empty mags and using the thigh pocket on my pants on the right. Kind of just jumped back and forth depending on what was, well, not really what was convenient, but just what I kind of instinctively went to first. So on this stage, it was thigh pocket on the right. You cannot leave magazines on the range, by the way, or any other personal kit. Anything you leave on the stage is a 60-second penalty. The purpose for that is not to try and move any specific behavior, but rather to prevent us from having to waste time at the match in the dark tracking down people's lost stuff on the range. Anyway, you get to the very end, you get over the last barricade, you have to make 2 hits, like so. Then you pull the magazine and you have to make what we call a high value shot, which means you have only 1 chance to make a given hit. It's the round that's in the chamber. Once you do that, the 180-degree safety rule no longer applies because since you pulled the mag and fired the round in the chamber, we know 100% that the gun is empty. At that point, you grab your rifle and the kettlebell, bring it back to the starting position, again, making this a self-resetting stage, and then reload the gun, go to a knee, and make 2 more hits. And in this case, I didn't quite pull it off. I got right here, was just about to reload the rifle, and the timer went off. So 30 of us got to this position, making it a nice tied score. Stage 9, radio freakout. Get it? Get it? Anyway, we don't actually have a story behind this stage. It's just a stage with radios, which has been brought to you by T-Rex Arms, purveyors of holsters, armor, night vision, and so much more.
Ready.
Les of Polaris Logistics, again, our stage designer and match director, got the idea to do a stage where your instructions were transmitted to you by radio. And it didn't really sound like a whole lot on paper, but man, this turned out to be a really fun one to shoot. So you start by going to the VTAC barricade, and off the outside of the barricade, you have to make 4 hits. So the left target, the right target, the left target, and the right target. Again, once you do that, again, having some visibility issues here, I was not consistent in what settings I had on the laser because I just was not familiar with it because I just picked it up.
Shooter, move to left side of left horizontal barricade.
Anyway, once you're done with that first engagement, an RO watching you shoot from up the hill above the shooting bay will call down on your radio what position you have to engage from next. Now, all the shooting engagements are the same. It's 2 hits on each target, no double taps. So left, right, left, right. Once you finish, he's watching and he'll call in.
Shooter, move to table and make engagement under table.
Like so. You don't have to bring a radio. We did this by equipping, each competitor got a radio when they started the stage. We had hoped to be able to like clip it into people's existing communication setups, but that turned out to be not really feasible.
Shooter, move to VTAC and make engagement from upper square hole.
Instead, we opted for the simple catch-all solution of taking
a basic radio, cranking the volume all the way up, and then the shooter had to keep it on their person somehow. We didn't really care how, but if the radio fell off, that was a penalty. So I have it in I believe in a breast pocket in this Swiss.
Shooter, move to right side of right horizontal barricade.
In a pocket in this Swiss jacket. There are like 1,000 pockets in this Alpenflage thing, which made that easy to do. So get one more set here. These guys.
Shooter, move to right side of left barricade.
It was interesting to me that the targets were far more visible. The right side target in particular was far more visible from the right side of the stage than it was from the left. And that's another thing that we noticed overall, have noticed every year we've done this match, that visibility can change radically with very small changes.
Shooter, move to detrack and engage targets from lower floor.
A little bit of change in the moon or the clouds can make a huge difference, and literally just moving 10 or 20 yards laterally or forward backward on a stage can make a huge difference in your ability to actually see the targets. So again, that changes with shooters across the night.
Shooter, engagement complete.
And stage 10, assault on Camp A107. This puts you on the opposite side of stage 5 from yesterday. So today, your mission is to overrun the Imperialist camp and defeat the puppet troops. Your mission is to open the breach in the wire and allow follow-on squads to wipe out the enemy base. Brought to you by Trijicon, brilliant aiming solutions, all sorts of great optics. One more call out to the 1968 Green Berets movie with John Wayne here. This time we're on the Viet Cong side of the fight, so you have to run this breaching ladder down, toss it on the concertina wire. Yes, that is real concertina wire. You do not want to trip and fall into it. That would be very unpleasant. Then engage all 8 targets. Each target has to get 1 hit. There's 4 of them in the field and 4 of them sort of up at the end against the tree line. This was a really fun stage to have sort of a more open, free fire, higher round count stage here. And doing this with the AR as opposed to the Lage open bolt machine gun that I ran in the main match, the AR was a lot easier at this because the trigger is far better. Now, do you absolutely have to have the best possible trigger to be able to make hits like this? No, you totally don't. The Lage has a terrible trigger, as is not uncommon for open bolt guns. And yet, I was able to complete that stage pretty darn well. But it is definitely easier to do it with a good, crisp, light semi-auto trigger like a properly put together rifle has. Now, that's certainly not the only element. I had a better trigger here, but I also had a worse illuminator. Once again, especially on the 4 far targets, a better illuminator would have been very helpful. But that's not to say that you necessarily always want like a second sun projecting out of your rifle. There are times when a large illuminator can actually cause shadows and wash things out and actually make things harder to see. In this case, we had a couple of these targets hanging in the back that you would expect to be hanging right in the center of their A-frames, but they actually weren't. Some of them were hanging offset to one side or the other. And if you didn't have a good illuminator that allowed you to actually see the target instead of just see the sticks and then estimate where the target is, well, obviously the stage was harder to complete. So this is my last engagement. I'm on the left side. I just have to clear out these last couple targets, and that will be the match for me. There we go. Very fun.
All right, we are now done with all 10 stages. My hands are covered in fake blood from the casualty. I have a long drink, and I had a tremendously good time. I've never really shot one of our night matches with actual good modern equipment. I've had sometimes modern equipment and sometimes good equipment, but never both at the same time, and often old crappy equipment. And this was frankly just a lot of fun. I think I did reasonably well. I'm sure I'm not in the top 10% or anything. I have the scores here because by the time we're editing this, I know the scores, but as of our filming, we're just finishing up the staff match. So we have 2 nights coming up for all of our competitors to complete the match. I will be running it a second time with a machine gun. That'll be really cool footage, but that's not going to be on YouTube. So head over to History of Weapons and War if you want to see the my run with a Lage Max 15 open bolt full auto 5.56. But man, conclusion for this is these stages ran really well, super fun, super cool. Big thanks to all of the companies that made it possible for us to have an awesome prize table for our competitors here. And thanks to you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video.